Welcome back. We're still looking at the welfare of the Nigerian worker. Comrade Aremu, both of you, Mr. Ajayi, you and Mr. Ajayi, you've talked about how we need to fight to protect the Nigerian worker. The phrases you have used, you in particular, you talked about protecting jobs and then creating jobs. But how strong is that wall that will protect the worker if the house is divided?
Well, Natal, I think definitely we'll be better off if the house is not divided. But I also think it's important to use this forum to let you know that there are houses and there are houses. Today, as I'm talking to you, there are well over 42 industrial unions who have their autonomy and they are quite independent to do their jobs. And I want to tell you that in most of these unions, there's no dull moment in terms of the fighting for the defense of the rights of their members. I can tell you, I'm from textile sector, which is one of the sectors that is well depressed. We have been very loud on the struggle for revival of textile industry. And in terms of industrial policy, we have been extremely very, very active, as a union. I mean, the Vice President, the Minister of State for Industry, they are already on the roadshows to take inventory of industry that have closed down. This is due to the pressure of the unions. Not only that, even in terms of wage improvements, I mean, we should also get it right. Each union and each sector has its own bargaining process and collective agreement. And I want to tell you that in spite of the depression, we just signed a collective agreement in my sector in which we have increased wages, effectively with close to 13% in this economy. And when you cumulatively add it together with the past 3-4 years, we have effectively improved wages up to about 45%. So no dull moment in terms of the sectoral effort of the unions. I've just referred to public sector, some of them will have to fight to defend their members in some states. Oyo State was granted for almost about 3 months in recent time. Petroleum sector, Pengasson and Nupeng, they've just, suspended this struggle. And as Comrade Jiro said, I also know a lot of struggle that has been waged within the sector, electric sector, which has done a very good, commendable struggle there. In fact, some of the points that electricity workers, raised now, those who are opposed to what the union was saying, they are now back to it, questioning the whole effectiveness of the so-called privatization of the power sector. So I mean, you can't really deny the fact that unions are very active in that. But we can do more better, as you said, if we are united. And you can see this during the last struggle against the petroleum price increase. I listened to Yomi very well. You referred to prohibitive increase in price of petroleum products. I mean, that was the most highest increase of product price we ever had. And then NSE called a strike, to oppose it. That strike will have been far more effective if we don't have a divided house, as the case may be. So we can do far more better. And I'm happy today. I mean, I'm not sure whether I'm more than happy, but I was shocked. I've met many Nigerians who we call out for that strike, who shunned the strike, but now they are now saying, they regret it because inflation rate has gone up. According to 2017 budget, inflation rate is supposed to be 15%. Now, yesterday, we had the official figure, now it's about 18%. And this has eroded income at all levels. There's not generalized poverty. Nigeria have not seen, the fact that NSE struggle last year is not just meant for us, but it's meant for Nigerians as a whole.
Comrade Aremu.
We also hear discordant voices. They want to increase the price of fuel again.
Comrade
so
Aremu.
What I'm saying here is that certainly we can do better as a united house. But
okay, now you have there's no dull moment, as you said, with the different industrial unions. And tell me, if you have to discuss this wage issue, increment in minimum wage, how do you want to discuss, for instance, with the federal government? Is it that everyone is going to come differently without a united front? How are you going to get, concrete thing from the federal government?
First, I don't think anybody wants to play our internal, crisis over what is statutory and national minimum wage. First, minimum wage is part of our heritage, handed over to us by our founding fathers. The last minimum wage was signed in 2010. And when we signed it, we said that minimum wage should not last more than 5 years, because the previous one lasted about 10 years. We also put a clause there that before the expiration of the agreement, we should raise proposals, which the NSC had already raised, of 56,000 naira. Now, the challenge is for the government to constitute the tripartite committee. Don't forget that it's an executive bill which has to go to the National Assembly. And I listened to Minister Ngige, who said very soon they will constitute the panel. And the panel is statutory. It's made up of organized labor, represented by those centers that are duly known to be in existence. You also have the organized private sector. You also have the government represented by federal and the state government. So there is already established tradition by law and by traditions in terms of how to constitute the panel. And when they constitute the panel, I'm very sure the government in its wisdom will make sure that it reflects the diversity of the entire labor movement, so that everybody is carried along in a way that we can defend the Nigerian worker. Because minimum wage is national minimum floor for the least paid workers. So it's not about which sector, which labor group, which one is this. It's about Nigerian workers. In fact, minimum wage is even meant more for those workers who do not belong to unions, who have no voice, who have no voices to protect themselves. So I think that one is clear, that I don't think there's any discordant views. And I've listened to all the opinions of all the comrades, in spite of our disagreement over election last year. I think all of us are united on the need to improve on minimum wage. Okay, and I know that in my mind.
Let's come back to Comrade Ajaero. He has said he doesn't think there's any discordant tune in terms of minimum wage. Do you agree? The NLC-TUC is proposing 56,000. Is that what United Labour Congress is also proposing?
Well, I don't think that in terms of need for minimum wage that we are divided. Never, we're not. But the NLC proposed 56, and the United Labour Congress proposed 96. Now, usually, we need to sit down and prepare what is called labor position. It happens, TUC can equally bring their own proposal. And it's our duty, because even after the last fuel increase, and we divided before government, we went back to our house after the palliative committee was set up. Now the labor group has been meeting together. Then it was faction, Ajaero faction, Ayuba faction, TUC. These two factions and TUC have been meeting to present government position, labor position to government. So we don't have problem with that. Whether we demanded 700 and these people demanded 50, usually there is what we call labor position. We harmonize it based on...
Before you meet with the federal government?
Usually, yes. So, and if we go there separately, we will still come back, like we did during that issue of fuel increase. We are compelled to go back to come up with labor position.
But so you remember he also mentioned that even during the fuel increment, it could have been better.
Yeah, I think he's right.
And so if you go first to go and discuss 96 with federal government...
There's a proposal we have sent.
Proposal, yes. Yeah. And they also go to discuss 56. Fine. Who is it?
Assuming...
How many times... Because the government could take advantage of that and say, well, we don't have that luxury of time to be discussing with different people.
Let me tell you what happens. You see, even when we decide to discuss with government as a body, it's not because we are not independent, but just to make our position uniform. Because in most instances, if they go there and get 56,